Morning, everybody. Lovely to be with you, even just in this capacity this morning. I want you to think back to when you were a child, and you may have gone to a church like this. And when you looked up the front of the church, was there a cross or was there a crucifix? A crucifix is a cross with the body of Jesus on it. A cross by itself is something different. Now, if you went to a Protestant church as a child, you probably would have seen an empty cross. If you went to a Catholic church or an Orthodox church, you probably would have seen a crucifix. Protestants wanted to emphasize that Jesus is no longer on the cross. Catholics wanted to emphasize the death of Jesus. So two different symbols. The thing is with a cross, right, it can very quickly become an abstract symbol. It can very quickly just become something that's removed. It's a religious symbol, and it can start to lose some of its meaning. But when you see a crucifix, when you see a body hanging on a cross, something's going on here, right? This is telling a story. This isn't an abstract symbol. This is telling a story. And today what we're going to do is just look at that story a little bit and sit with the absurdity of it. In our text today, in 1 Corinthians, Paul is going to talk about how it's foolishness, how it's a stumbling block. And we're going to ask ourselves this question: what does this mean? Like the first disciples, the early Christians who saw their leader crucified, what does this mean? And here's the trick. We are not going to try and answer that question too quickly. So we're going to have to resist taking all of those answers from our childhood, from Sunday school, from sermons people have taught us, these pre-packaged answers about what the cross means. We're going to resist grabbing them, and we're going to sit in the uncomfortableness, this liminal space of asking, what could this possibly mean? What does this reveal about God? Because there's a verse in Scripture that says Jesus is the image of the invisible God. Jesus is the icon of the invisible God. So Jesus is revealing God to us. When we look to Jesus, it's the clearest picture of the Father that we get. So as we look at Christ hanging on a cross, what does this mean? What does this say about God? There's a famous quantum physicist, Richard Feynman. He famously said, talking about quantum physics, if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics. That moment you get to it and say, yes, I've got it. Feynman says, no. You scratch the surface, you don't understand. And I think we have to adopt this attitude a little bit with the cross. We think we understand. We think we know it. We're so used to seeing it. And we need to ask afresh, what does this mean? So let's look at the text. For the message about the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has God not made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of the world did not know God through wisdom, God decided through the foolishness of our proclamation to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs, and Greeks desire wisdom. But we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength. The text here says, Jews demand signs and Greeks desire wisdom. The Jews were the religious people. The Greeks were the people of logic and rationality. So I think for today's context, Jews and Greeks, we can substitute religious and rational. Religious people require a sign. Rational people require evidence and logic. And to both of these things, the cross is an absurdity. To the religious mind, how could this be? How could God be revealed through humiliation? How could God be revealed through death? To the rational and logic mind, how can a God who is powerful suffer this fate? How could a God who's the creator of the world be revealed in such weakness and lowliness? Religious people find the cross a stumbling block. Rational people find the cross foolishness. And we as Christians need to be reminded from time to time just how foolish and how much of a stumbling block the cross is. Here is a piece of graffiti scratched on the surface of a catacomb in Rome, dated back to around about 200 AD, so very much part of the early church. And the inscription says, Alexamenos worships his God. Alexamenos worships his God, and it depicts what looks like the crucified Messiah with the head of a donkey. To the Roman mind, the cross is foolishness because we celebrate strength in Rome. We celebrate victory, military might. And we're built on the back of the Greeks. And so we also admire rationality and logic. And all of these things are absurdly depicted in the cross. So this graffiti is having a dig at Alexamenos, saying, your God has the head of an ass. What does this mean? When we turn the cross into an abstract symbol, it's very easy to start sanitizing. It's very easy to, as I said earlier, abstract it into nothingness. And so we think of it as an object of beauty. And we make jewellery around it. And we wear nice gold necklaces with crosses and we decorate them in our churches. When you think about this, like, how absurd is this? Here is an emblem of one of the most excruciating execution devices ever devised. It's an object of torture. It's like if we walked around with a necklace and an electric chair. It's like if we drove past our churches and there were pictures of a firing squad out the front. This is a stumbling block to the religious mind. This is foolishness to the rational mind. What does this mean? Well, spoiler, part of the beauty of the gospel is how God takes something so horrendous and makes it beautiful. He takes death and 3 days later turns it into resurrection life. And so in some way, this horror is transfigured through death and resurrection. But the cross itself, the crucifix itself, is foolishness to the rational, and it's a stumbling block to the religious. As I said before, Jesus reveals the Father. And so God is like Jesus. Now, some people might say, well, hang on, God is Jesus. And I wouldn't argue with you there. But the point is, we don't know what God is like. We think it's self-evident of what God must be like, right? But we don't know. That's the whole point, right? We sing, here's a song, you can join in with me from Sunday school. You might remember this. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. Yet God reveals himself to us like this. Homeless, weak, strung up on an execution device, in pain. What is going on here? The crucified God. Now there's a thought. God is crucified. Hey guys, you thought it was bad? God just died. If you take a theology class, one of the first lessons you'll learn is about all the omnis. Omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. These are attributes we ascribe to God. Omnipotence, which means he is all-powerful. Omnipresent, which means he is in all places. Omniscient, which means he knows all things. Yet the fullest revelation of God subverts all of these things, right? God's omnipotence, his all-powerfulness, is displayed in brokenness and humility. God's omnipresence, his all-being everywhere, is narrowed and defined in precise particularity in this one point in time on a hill outside Jerusalem. His omniscience, his all-knowing wisdom is displayed in what seems like foolishness. Everything that we thought we knew about God is undone, subverted, turned upside down when we contemplate the cross. All our notions of power, all our notions of victory, all our notions of what it is to be wise, turned upside down, they're broken apart, and that's where we need to sit today. What does this mean? Is this really just like the end of a tragic story? Is this some type of God with the head of a donkey? Or is there something else going on here? Is this actually paradoxically the glory of God being revealed? Is this actually the heart of the Father being demonstrated to us? Is this actually the way that God does battle? Is this actually the wisdom that has founded the world? Because if it is, it's undoing everything I thought I knew. And it leaves me broken at my knees. So friends, I leave you with this question. What does this mean? And I leave you with this challenge. Don't try and answer that question too quickly.